The Tennessee Titans fell 20-16 in Pittsburgh against the Steelers on Thursday Night Football, but Will Levis looks like a franchise quarterback, maybe even a potential superstar at the position. We're going to break it all down now. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it.
I mean, losing sucks, especially at this level. You know, it's just so hard to win games, and when you got an opportunity like that to win it at the end and it doesn't happen, it makes it feel a whole lot worse. But I mean, credit to them. They made the plays when they needed to, and we didn't. Got to get back to work.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Music City Audible Podcast, brought to you by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver, back home in my real setup with my Rangers sweatshirt on. World Series champs, baby. Let's go. As always, I'm joined by Justin Melo. Justin, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. It's nice to have you back home, I'll tell you that much. You were the one recording from hotel rooms and all that, and we were kind of on the fly there for a little bit, but it's nice to have you back home. We can settle into more of our routine schedule, which is good for us. It's good for our viewers, our listeners, and all that. And a lot to cover here, in my opinion. I got a lot of thoughts from this loss to the Steelers, which I think, as you said, doesn't feel as bad, maybe, as a typical loss, because I was personally very encouraged by what I saw from Will Levis in his second career start. So certainly more of a glimmer of hope than most Titans losses. Certainly more so than any Titans loss this year, right? Because this is Will Levis's first loss, obviously. So certainly feeling the best I have felt all year about a loss, and I'm excited to get into it with you.
Yeah, so let's talk here. We're going to talk on this pod implications of this loss, what this means for the rest of the season, and we're definitely going to dive deep on Will Levis's performance, his second career start, talk about some of the injuries the Titans are battling, and then before we close this thing out, we're going to talk about some of the baffling coaching decisions, play calls. I'm not sure exactly who to pin the blame on, whether it goes to Tim Kelly, Mike Vrabel combination. Everything ultimately falls at the feet of Mike Vrabel, so that's where we'll end up with getting in that discussion, but we'll save that for the end. Let's start with the implications here. So the Titans fall to 3-5. They're falling back in the division. Jags have won, 5 straight games, looking like the team that's going to win the AFC South. Now, we saw last year things can change. Titans were 7-3, and they went on to lose every game for the rest of the year. So, something similar in theory could happen to the Jags, but I'm not banking on it. My hopes for this Titans team being a playoff contender are diminishing with every passing week. And at this point in the year, I think the most you can hope for, I'm not saying root for your team to lose, because I want Will Levis to look good. I want him to lead some game-winning drives. I want him to lead have some awesome moments and be, look like a great quarterback. But ultimately, this team's not going anywhere this year. We've said this a couple of times, dating back to week 3. We've been talking about this for a long time when we were saying the Titans needed to make this quarterback change. They finally seem to have made it, although Mike Vrabel will not commit to Will Levis being the starter. He said he'll let the media know on Tuesday who's going to be the starting quarterback against the Buccaneers in Week 10, and we'll update you more when we get that info for our preview pod looking at the Bucs. We're going to get back to our routine, like you said. We're going to bring a guest on for that one, so we'll get to that later in the week. It's kind of frustrating that he hasn't named Will Levis the starter, but I think we all kind of know that he will be, and if he's not, then we can get our pitchforks out and riot. But let's talk about, like I said, implications here. I don't know, Justin, what do you make of where this team is at this season, and what are the goals for the rest of the way?
Well, there's, it might be strange to say this, but I'll be honest with you. And there's a lot of football left, and that's why it might sound strange, but I think you're probably in the same place that I am. I think any dwindling hopes I had of them potentially making the playoffs essentially evaporated after, Thursday's loss, in all honesty. I mean, just looking at the bigger picture, I think I talked about it last episode. If you beat this team, they're in a wild card spot, being the Steelers. You've got the tiebreaker over them. Well, you didn't beat them, right? They're 5-3 now, I think. You're 3-5. Yep. They have the tiebreaker over you. The Cleveland Browns have the tiebreaker over you. They're in the mix for that, what I'm essentially considering the 7th and final playoff spot, because I'm giving that 5th spot to the Bills or Dolphins, whoever doesn't win the division. I'm giving that 6th spot to the Ravens or Bengals, whoever doesn't win the division. And now that 7th spot, you got 2 teams in the mix that have already beaten you. The Steelers and the Browns, they got better record than you. They hold the tiebreaker over you. The Chargers might get into that mix. Yeah, you hold the tiebreaker over them, but I essentially have no hopes left, to be honest, that this team could make the playoffs. It all but evaporated. So what are the goals for the rest of the way? I think you said it, and I feel the exact same way. It's for Will Levis to look like a future franchise quarterback, a starting quarterback, a guy that you can build around in the offseason when you're going to have, $100 million in space, in cap space, that is, and you've got a first round pick and you've got a second round pick and you don't have a third, unfortunately. Maybe a trade down from one of those picks, move back, pick up an extra. There'll be time for those discussions when it comes, but you've got some picks that you could build around him. You've got a lot of cap space. You want him to look like that guy that you could go all in, because there's a very good chance, and right now I feel really good about where he is, that this supporting cast is going to look very, very different next year, right? With all the money in the picks, you could, in theory, you hit on a couple of your decisions. You could build a pretty damn good supporting cast around him. And in my opinion, if he is who we think he is, you can get right back to contention, right back to playoff contention in 2024. I don't think that's far-fetched at all. If things go well, and you don't even need them, in all honesty. It doesn't need to be one of those miracle off seasons, right? Like we talked about, I think going into this season, we said if they hit on, the whole offensive line, all that, yes, it's similar maybe to a degree, but the point is you're going to have a lot more resources, right, to do that, right? They didn't have a lot of cap space heading into this season, right? They're sort of hamstrung by, the Tannehill contract, the Derrick Henry contract, even the Kevin Byard contract. Potentially none of those are going to be on the books next year. They're all scheduled to come off. I say potentially because I still wouldn't be stunned if they re-signed Derrick Henry, who I think looks really good at a reasonable price. But the point is you're going to have a lot of money to do what you want to do around Will Levis. So the goal for the rest of this year is for him to keep looking good. Right now, he's got one outstanding game and one really good performance, in my opinion, and 0 bad performances, right? So you want to keep stacking that in the left-hand side of that column. You want to keep him looking good. And look, if he could look good on Thursday with how that situation played out, with the offensive line being as putrid as it was, injuries up there, you're changing things up. 3 reserve linemen played in this game. They played a total of 8 offensive linemen. You lose Treylon Burks to a scary injury. I know that was late and Burks wasn't playing well. The point is you dealt with a lot of adversity throughout this game and you still looked really good as the quarterback. So I've got a lot of hope that that's going to continue being the case. That's the goal in my book, is for Will Levis to keep looking good. And and I agree. I don't want them to lose every game here on out. I don't want them to. I know you want to quote unquote tank, get a better pick, yada yada. But I want him to build some confidence. I want him to lead some of those game-winning drives. He said, I want him to have some games like he had on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons, where he goes out and throws 3 or 4 touchdowns and they win in exciting fashion. I don't think that's really going to hurt this. Look, especially now, and I knock on wood, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but especially now that we're not talking about tanking for a quarterback, right? You're not talking about potentially drafting Caleb Williams or Drake May. I want them to win 2, 3, 4 more games, whatever it is, and let them have those moments. Let them go into next year with a ton of confidence. You're still going to be in a position to draft someone that could help him right away. Again, you'll be in a position to sign a bunch of guys that can help him right away. So no, I don't want to lose every game from here on out. And we've agreed the playoffs are probably not within reach, but let them go out there and have some franchise quarterback moments. That's the goals for the rest of the year.
I totally agree with that. I think there's like 2 paths, maybe even 3 if you want to split the middle here, that this season could take, and they're all good. Either the Titans are really, really bad, injuries continue to derail them, which we're going to get into in a second, and they lose the majority of the rest of their games. They end up with a really high draft pick, and then you're faced with a Joe Burrow-esque Bengals-style decision in the first round. Do you get Will Levis a weapon like Jamar Chase or a tackle like Penei Sewell? That was the Bengals conversation. This year it'll be like Marvin Harrison Jr., Keon Coleman versus Joe Alt or Ola Fashu. We'll learn how to say that name later. But I think, that's one path, and that's not a bad path. You get a really high draft pick. The other one is Will Levis wins you more games than you expect, and he ends up fighting for a playoff spot. Even if it's just the end of season experience to fight for a playoff spot and the Titans come up short, that's great experience for him. Or, God forbid, they win enough games, they sneak into the playoffs, and Will Levis gets Will Levis gets that experience of actually starting a playoff game that, the Titans will be underdogs in if he somehow were to win it. Like, there's just a lot of different ways that this could go, and it's all good for the Titans. And then there's the middle path where they end up like 8 and 9, don't compete for the playoffs. Although 8 and 9 probably competes for the playoffs. 7 and 10 don't compete for the playoffs, and you end up with a late teens draft pick. But that's fine too, as long as he has those. That means he won a few games in there, and that's what we're looking for, is for him to have some of those moments.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be 8-9. I'll come out and say that right now. I'm expecting they'll be worse than that. I think 6-11, 7-10 at best, but I'm thinking more a 6-11 type record. I do want to comment on the injuries, the offense. Actually, no. Before I get into that, can we talk about maybe highlight some of the throws he made that impressed you? Because I've probably forgotten some already, but there's obviously that 1st and 23 shot to DeAndre Hopkins from his own end zone was probably the tightest window throw he made all game. That was, I couldn't believe they picked up that first down on 1st and 23 from their own end zone.
I would call that the most pinpoint dot that he threw in this game, like the most accurate, perfect ball placement pass right over the linebacker who had his back turned to him, which is like great recognition, take advantage of that. And then Hopkins, right in Hopkins' hands, allowing him to run after the catch so that he could pick up. I think what I realized in this game with Will Levis starting is that getting backed up behind the sticks used to be, for this Titans team, that's it. The drive is over. With Will Levis, he converted that 1st and 23. Later in the game, he converted a 3rd and 13 with instant pressure right up the middle and throwing it sort of like just flicking the wrist with his lower body being tackled by a defensive player. It wasn't the most accurate pass, but you had an open receiver, so he just kind of laid it out there for Nick Westbrook-Akina to go get it. Like, it didn't hit him on the run and allow him to keep catching and run, but the fact that he's able to absolutely great play. The fact that he's able to navigate the pressure and then get the ball out and throw a catchable ball to his receiver to convert a 3rd and 13 and keep the drive alive on a drive where I don't remember if he got sacked before that or if there was a penalty that backed them up, but whatever it is, you get behind the sticks like that. When Ryan Tannehill was the quarterback of this team, even when they were good, 2019, 2020, when they were good, it felt like if you're backed up behind the sticks, that's it for the drive. And with Will Levis, it's like, no problem, man, I can convert this. So those were 2 of the most impressive plays. The 2 to Kyle Phillips that came later in the game, I think right before halftime, those were awesome throws, throwing it down the seam, up the sideline, great plays to Kyle Phillips. And then the one that impressed me the most was, I think it was a 2nd down. Levis is identifying the coverage right before the snap, he reads the blitz, and Kirk Herbstreit called this out on the broadcast, but Levis identifies the blitz, comes up to the line of scrimmage, changes the protection, has the offensive line slide protection. It's like, that guy's blitzing. I know he's going to blitz. Block the left side. I can see this blitzer. Make sure no one comes from my blind side. Let that blitzer through, and I'm going to hit the hot right over his head for a nice pickup. That was the most impressive play to me because...
Was that the one to Treylon Burks?
Yeah, that was the one to Treylon Burks.
That was his hot. And I was super disappointed Burks didn't break that tackle, in all honesty.
Agreed.
They're in a one-on-one situation on the sideline. Burks might score if he breaks that tackle.
Yeah, and that play only went for 2 yards, and it wasn't like an awesome display of Will Levis's arm talent or anything else that we've seen, but the recognition,
pre-snap recognition, yeah,
right. The fact that he is in command at the line of scrimmage. On the other side of the ball, the mics on the TNF broadcast are amazing because you can hear so much of what the players are saying on the field. And I don't know if anyone else out there listening or watching noticed this, but Kenny Pickett basically doesn't identify anything. He calls out the cadence. And you have the center, the Steelers center is calling out who's the mic, what the protection shifts are. On the other side of the ball, Will Levis is calling everything. He has complete command of the offense at the line of scrimmage, canning plays, audibling routes. In the no huddle, he's giving the hand signs to what the routes are going to be. He is in full control for a rookie in his 2nd start. That is incredibly impressive. And that's what gives me so much confidence in him moving forward.
Agreed.
Obviously, the arm talent is amazing, and his ability to navigate a lot of pressure in this game, which we're going to get to in a second, was awesome to see too. And one of the biggest knocks on him was navigating pressure in college and not feeling the rush coming from behind him. And yeah, he took 4 sacks in this game, but in 1 second, I want to talk about the pressure numbers from this game. So we're going to get to that. Hang on. But so taking 4 sacks is what it is. There was one play in the red zone where he bailed too soon, and he would have had Hopkins for a touchdown, and it looked like one of the plays that we broke down with Liam Cohen. Only when we broke it down with Liam Cohen, he ran through 4 tackles and dove into the end zone. And in the NFL, that's not quite as easy to do. So didn't work out that way. But just a couple little mistakes that I think are pretty correctable and definitely rookie mistakes. But the most impressive throws were impressive, and the recognition pre-snap to see what's going on and just commanding the whole offense. Man, this kid is good.
I agree. And look, it's the same thing I said last week. Remember when we talked about all the touchdowns and I pointed out all the little things that I did. And I said the same thing you said. I said, what gives me hope is not just the arm strength, because, there's another quarterback on this roster that has arm strength, but can't read a defense, right? In all honesty. And that'll do you in, right? Like that'll write you off essentially. So, but with him, it's the pre-snap recognition, the command, the ability to, making the checks at the line of scrimmage, calling audibles, and getting them into good situations. And I agree. That's why right now I'm feeling probably more confident than I should be through 2 starts, because the arm talent blows me away. But when you pair that with a guy that can command an offense and read defense pre and post snap and make throws under pressure and is, even escape pressure, because I think he's athletic enough to do it, that's when I start to get really excited, right? Because it's more than just pure arm strength. But you brought up a bunch of throws. Those are the throws I wanted to highlight. And can I say I think his biggest achievement in this game is making Kyle Phillips look like an NFL wide receiver again? Because that's the first time Phillips has looked like that since week 1 of last season.
Yeah, and Kyle Phillips has been, like, if you look at their people post this stuff on Twitter, like the separation chart and the average separation per route, and like Kyle Phillips has been open all season. He's just not been getting the ball. And
all season, how many games has he played?
Well, when he has played this season, he's been getting he's been averaging like 2.9 yards per separation or something. He's been way above average in the average separation per route run. And he was open a lot in this game. And a couple of the throws that Levis made, he wasn't really that open. It was just a great throw by Levis to like fit it over a linebacker before
that
a safety
one on
type
the final
of thing.
Drive that really started moving the ball, moving the chains. That one was okay. That was a big one.
Right, exactly. And Kyle Phillips, I mean, if he can play like this and stay healthy, I think the biggest thing for Phillips is staying healthy. And he made it through this game healthy. So he led the team in receiving this game, 4 catches for 68 yards. DeAndre Hopkins right behind him, 4 for 60. Levis completed passes of over 20 yards 7 times to 6 different receivers in this game. That is like, we're talking about finding explosive plays. That is the explosive plays. I would like to say, I would like to cover a couple of the little mistakes he made, and I also want to talk about the interception at the end of the game. So, first mistake to me, and I don't know chronologically, maybe this wasn't the first mistake. First mistake to me, besides the not seeing Hopkins in the red zone that I just mentioned a second ago, was the 4th and 4. He throws it deep to Treylon Burks, one-on-one down the left sideline. He had, it's a matchup you like there. Burks against, I think it was Levi Wallace, and Burks last year showed the ability to go up and make contested catches deep down the field. He did it against Green Bay, did it against Cincinnati. Hasn't really done it this year in terms of contested catches. And thoughts and prayers with Treylon Burks for the injury that looked really bad. He was unconscious on the field for what looked like 5 minutes, stretchered off the field. Mike Vrabel said he's alert and he's in the concussion protocol now, so I doubt we'll see him play for 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks here. That's one of the more serious concussions you'll see in a football game. So hearts out to him. But, aside from that, I don't want to be insensitive, but aside from that, like Treylon Burks just doesn't look like a quality NFL receiver this year. And all the hype from the offseason, I don't know what happened. You hope he's healthy. You hope he's okay. And like his brain, especially like the concussion, you hope he's going to be okay there. I just don't see the Titans. He's not going to contribute much to the Titans this year. But anyway, that was one mistake because he had Kyle Phillips, who we're just talking about, pretty much wide open on that 4th down play. Now, we can berate the coaching staff for not letting Levis throw the ball until it was 4th and 4, and you have a rookie quarterback making his second start. Give him a down to make a mistake. Don't make him be perfect on 4th and 4. We're going to come back to that. So that was one mistake. He took a sack, a couple, trying to run out of pressure that he probably should have just gotten rid of the ball on before in the final drive of the game, where you only have one timeout. And if you get sacked, that's basically when you have to use the timeout. And if he'd been able to save that timeout, throw the ball away there, maybe something else happens. And then on the final drive, a lot of people want to talk about how, he threw a couple dropped interceptions before he threw an interception. Look, in that situation in the game, that is really tough. When you're working with so little time and you're driving down the field, by the time you get inside the 25-yard line where they were, the coverage has everything. Like, there's nowhere to go with the football, because if you want to throw it short, you're going to run out of time in the game. If you want to take a shot to the end zone, it's like cover 3 with linebackers in the passing lanes. Like, there's literally, you can't throw the ball 25 yards down the field when you're within 25 yards of the end zone at that point in the game. He did make the one pass to Chig on the sideline to like put them closer. Maybe they could have tried that one more time before he took that end zone shot, but
maybe. I
like the aggressiveness going to the end zone. The one that was dropped right before the interception, I think if he throws that up a little bit more and puts it over the top of that safety who came down and made a play on the ball, you might have a chance at a touchdown. these are things he's going to learn from. I said it on the preview pod, like he didn't make that big mistake. He didn't really make any mistakes hardly in the Falcons game, so there wasn't as much to learn from. Well, this game, there were a few mistakes, not glaring mistakes. Obviously, an interception that ends the game is never what you want to happen, but like I said, really tough position there, so hard to actually put any blame on him.
I mean, they had
exactly.
They had like 3 defenders sitting in the end zone, just ready to drive forward on anything towards the end zone. That's an incredibly difficult spot to be in. So I wasn't shocked it ended the way they did. I mean, the one before, as I said, that's the first time I think I saw them line up with 3 defenders right there on the edge of the end zone. I'm like, they're just driving forward on anything as they should. Like, this is really easy to play defense in this situation.
Exactly.
With 15
so you can't
seconds
blame
left,
him for
20
that.
and no timeouts, right? Like, it's
exactly. So you can't throw the ball short
to the end
of that. Exactly. That's your only option. So a lot's going to be made about how he lost the game on an interception by the people who are not into Will Levis, and I think that that's dumb. So I just wanted to address it. But there's some mistakes. He's going to learn. He's a rookie. He's going to have those moments. But
you know what the biggest mistake
positives have far outweighed the negatives. Yes. What was the biggest mistake?
I mean, it was that throw, the lateral, whatever the heck he was doing. Did that pass not go backwards out of bounds and it looked like potentially a fumble? He was in the grasp sack and he tried to hit Derrick Henry on like a screen in the flat or whatever it was and threw it behind him and it bounced in play and rolled out of bounds. That was by far oh no, you're never doing that again. That was the one.
But they ruled him down. They ruled him down before that happened.
Oh, so okay. But letting go of that ball.
But he still, he did try to do it though. Yes.
Yeah, here's my point. He tried to throw that. I was like, okay, someone will tell him this week to never do that again.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, overall, the positives far outweigh the negatives to me, and the negatives are more just learning moments than they are like glaring issues in his game, if that makes sense.
Can't wait to watch him play football again next Sunday against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's the best thing I can say for a 3-5 team that I have no hopes of going to the playoffs or winning a Super Bowl. I mean, normally this would be really doom and gloom, right? But for me, there is renewed excitement, right? And I think that's the best thing I can say. I can't wait to watch him play football again.
Yeah, so let's talk about the pressures in this game because Will Levis dropped back to pass 40. Will Levis dropped back to pass 43 times, 39 pass attempts, 4 sacks. Here is, according to PFF, Wes on Broadway, our buddy at Titans Stats, tweeted this out. Total defensive pressures generated, Titans versus Steelers. Steelers generated 34 total pressures on 44 dropbacks. Now, if you look at some other sites, it's graded a little differently. Like Mike tweeted out, Levis faced pressure on 53% of his dropbacks. Even if that's the number, 53% of his dropbacks, he's under pressure, and most of those pressures are immediate. The fact that he was able to navigate this as well as he did and only take 4 sacks, a couple of those sacks maybe he shouldn't have taken, but still, the fact that he only took 4 and, ends up completing 22 of 39 passes, 262 yards. He had over 150 yards at halftime, a lot of which came on that final drive before the half. The fact that the pressure was this much, and Andre Dillard, here are words I never thought I would utter in my life. Andre Dillard is worse than Dennis Daly. Andre Dillard right now. Andre Dillard right now, through 8 games for the Titans, leads the NFL in pressures allowed, 34, QB hits allowed, 9, sacks allowed, 8. This is another one from our buddy Wes. 44 NFL tackles have more pass blocking snaps than Andre Dillard, and he leads the league in pressures allowed, QB hits allowed, sacks allowed. He was benched in a game. The Titans have already had their bye, and he still leads the league in all of these categories. He's only playing because Chris Hubbard is hurt, so it's not like I'm saying bench him again. Like, obviously, when Chris Hubbard comes back, he will be benched. And the injuries in general in this game, Chris Hubbard didn't play at all. NPF goes down a couple times, ends up coming back, ends up not coming back. So Dylan Radins has to come in and play for him. Peter Skoronski went down at one point, got up, came back in. Daniel Brunskill toughed out some sort of knee injury, went down, came back in. And Dillard also went down at one point and came back in. And thank God he did, because if it's not Dillard, it's Jalen Duncan, who honestly scares me more than Andre Dillard, and that is saying something. I think we might end up seeing what Jalen Duncan has to offer before the end of this season, because we might have to, based on injuries and stuff like that. But man, the injuries were brutal, and then just all these guys toughing it out. I think Aaron Brewer's the only one who didn't go down at any point, and Aaron Brewer actually had a really good game, and he was making crucial blocks in the run game and picking up pass blocking reps, and they did that thing that I broke down in the Titans earlier where he picks up the middle and then spins back around to take care of the defensive end, and he did a decentish job for a center against Alex Highsmith on that play.
I noticed that. Did you notice when he did that?
It was
I think it was
action.
when Duncan came into the game.
Ah, yes, it was. Yeah, so they helped out Duncan
That's
on the
why
left,
they did it.
on the left side.
It caught
so
my eye
have
on the
to block.
broadcast immediately. I'm not going to argue against anything you said about Andre Dillard. Can I give you a counterpoint, though?
Please.
I think if Nicholas Petit-Frere plays the whole game, that he was probably worse. How many?
He was statistically. If you look at their PFF grades, I don't know.
I want you to guess. I don't want you to look it up. How many snaps, offensive snaps, do you think Petit-Frere played?
18.
He played 14. I feel like he got beat 18 times somehow on 14 snaps. I mean, he got he was getting beat more than one. He was terrible. He got a Pro Football Focus pass blocking grade. Do you want to guess what it was?
I saw it already. I think it was like 9.8. 12.6.
12.6. I know that TJ Watt, one of the best edge rushers in football. If you read the article that I wrote on Broadway a couple days ago previewing this game, not that I'm a genius, but boy, it was even worse than I thought it might be. I spent the entire article essentially shitting my pants on TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith against Andre Dillard and Nicholas Petit-Frere. And it went just as bad as imagined, if not worse. It was really, I thought Petit-Frere was horrid. Like every snap that I watched, he got beat by the same inside move time and time again. He got beat to the inside every single time. I mean, it was bad. I actually think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, I thought Dylan Radins came in and kind of played all right, like at least sort of league average play for a right tackle. Like he held
his own against one of the best pass rushers in the league.
I thought he was way better than Andre Dillard and Nicholas Petit-Frere. Now, that's not saying much because they were both atrocious, but he was way better. And God damn it, I hate that I'm doing this again, but you know what I'm doing? I don't understand why they won't give him a shot at tackle. And I hate doing it because there's so many people on Titans Twitter that do it. And usually I'm against those people in these typical conversations, arguments. I usually side with the coaching staff. They're smarter than all of us. They really are. But
they see him every day in practice. They should know best.
They clearly think he's a guard. They only put him out there because they had no one else, essentially, right? I mean, when he came in, they could have put in Duncan, but I mean, God, that wouldn't have made any sense, right? Like they put him in because they had to, essentially. They were down to their third string right tackle, which is what he was. Like Mike Vrabel during Friday's press conference talked about the potential of reshuffling things on the O-line. I got the sense it was maybe more due to injury than it was due to, performance, but Chris Hubbard's probably going to be back for that Bucs game, right? He was in the concussion protocol. You've got a mini bye now, right? Coming off Thursday Night Football. So I think we'll get Hubbard back and they should put him back at right tackle. But I would give serious consideration to putting Radins at left tackle as opposed to Petit-Frere. I really would. I mean, that's probably what they're going to do, is what we expect them to do, because when they benched Dillard initially, that's who they went to, right? They went to Petit-Frere. So with things back to normal, that's probably what they'll go back to. But I really think they should give Radins a chance. After how bad Petit-Frere was in this game in such a small sample size, or maybe they even kick Hubbard to the left, right? If they think Radins is super comfortable on the right. I mean, Hubbard's played left tackle in his career. I don't get the sense he'd be completely overwhelmed with making that change. He's a veteran guy, and he's done it a bunch. So I'm curious to see what's going to come out of all that. I mean, like, their hand might be forced due to injury, right? We don't know what the Petit-Frere injury was like, the Dillard injury, how Hubbard's going to clear protocol, Brunson. Like, there are so many moving pieces to this. So it'll be curious to see where they go, but I've had enough of Nicholas Petit-Frere and I've had enough of Andre Dillard, and I'd be fine if neither of them, played another snap for the Titans this season. Yeah.
I mean, those two guys starting this game was the worst tackle duo in the NFL.
Yes.
And granted, neither of those guys, and those guys are starting out of position. Like, that's not where they're going to start when everyone's healthy, but
I think I said it last week. I'll say it again. I'm trying to look right into the camera, okay? If you're watching...
No, but talking to the mic. We can't hear you. Talking to the mic, though.
Damn it. I'm trying to look right into the camera while talking. I'm moving the mic and look right into the camera. I swear to God, if you complain about them drafting a tackle in the first round, I don't care that they drafted Peter Skoronsky last year at 11, a guard. If you complain about them drafting a tackle in the first round after what you just watched on Thursday and what you've watched all season long, so help you God. I don't know what I'm going to do, but so help you God. This team needs to draft a tackle in the first round.
shame on you, I think is what you're looking for.
That's probably the worst thing I'm going to do is say shame on you if you could, because God, I just it's so glaring. I don't care about all the misses. I don't care how many first round picks they've used online. I don't care about any. I don't care about Isaiah Wilson. I don't care about Dylan Raditz. I care about what they need right now. They don't need one. They need 2 tackles. They need 2 starting tackles next year, completely new, that are not on the roster right now.
Unless Dylan Radins is good. Put Dylan Radins at left tackle. That's where he played
Everyone
in college.
else has to get hurt for them to even try him. But that's probably going to happen at some point, because that's the other thing I want to talk to you about. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you talked about the injuries. I'm not gonna sit here and hope that we see some of these backup linemen down the stretch, because I want Will. I mean, God, these guys are barely giving Will Levis a chance. They're not giving Will Levis a chance. Can you imagine if this thing keeps going the way it's going? They lose a bunch of games. These injuries are going to round up. You know what happens to these guys at the end of the year? I'm out, right? Like, I need off-season surgery. I need whatever I need. And all of a sudden you get into your backup, roster, because that's how bad teams end up finishing seasons. Can you imagine this line? I don't want to ruin Will Levis. Can you imagine this ends with Jalen Duncan at left tackle and Corey Levin at left guard and all these other backup, God, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, the Steelers have one of the tougher defensive lines the Titans will face this season. So that's a factor there. I mean, they got the last 4 games of the year are Texans, Seahawks, Texans, Jags. Will Anderson looks good for the Texans, but they don't have like a ferocious pass rush that anyone's scared of. Seahawks, they just signed Frank Clark, I guess. Maybe that's like, they don't have anyone I'm that scared of.
I mean, they got a good line now. They traded for Leonard Williams. They have Draymond Jones.
That's true. They did
Frank
get
Clark.
Leonard
I like
Williams.
Daryl Taylor, ex-Tennessee guy. Like, they got some guys.
Yeah, but their best pass rusher, Uchenna Nwosu, is out for the season now. And then the Jags, Josh Allen's playing really well this year, but they don't have anyone else. Trayvon Walker's, as far as I'm considered, a bust. So, like, over the last 4 games, I don't think I'm necessarily that scared of the, the pressure they're going to face. And Will Levis has shown so far that he's been pretty decent at, like, moving around in the pocket and navigating it. But so that's just I guess, a devil's advocate point to what you're making there. But look, if I'm advocating for Radins to be a tackle, that means I'm advocating for myself to be wrong and lose a bet with you. So how much must...
multi-year bet. And if I recall correctly, and I don't want you to check the history, but if I recall correctly, you said that if Dylan Radins is a tackle, I get to name your firstborn child. That's what I remember.
I don't remember that.
I think that episode's been deleted from the archives, so we don't have proof. But that is, I get to name your firstborn child, and I might just name it Radins. Not Dylan, because Dylan makes more sense as a first name. And if it's a boy or a girl, I don't care. I'm going to name it Radins. That's what I'm going to do. First name. Radins Graver. It's got a nice ring to it.
Does it? Okay, so while we're talking about injuries here and stuff like that, the defense, I almost don't even want to spend too much time on it. Number one, I don't know what happened to the run defense. The run defense over the last 4 weeks has been a different team, and it's putrid and it's terrible. And like Najee Harris, who had 13 rushing yards last week, comes out and is running all over them. Jaylen Warren is a pretty talented back himself. He gets limited touches, but he had a great game too. These 2 guys run all over the Titans defense. So I don't know what's going on with that. Jack Gibbons is a guy who played really well the first few games of the season, and lately he's a guy that if the offensive linemen are able to climb to the second level and make contact with him, he's done. He's completely washed out of the play. Can't get off a block. Like, he was great when the Titans defensive line was eating up those blocks at the line of scrimmage and preventing the offensive lineman from climbing to the second level and getting to him, and he would shoot a gap and make a nice tackle. But when he has to get off a block, it is miserable to watch. And even Azeez Al-Shaair jumped out of position on Najee Harris's touchdown run. I don't know what's going on with the run defense. I don't know if Kevin Byard not being there in the back end to like yell at people. I mean, it's only been one game without Byard. 2 games without Byard. Yeah, you're right. Only been 2 games without Byard in the back end to like yell at people to get in the right spot. So I don't even want to blame it on him, because they were bad the last 2 games that Byard was in Tennessee. So run defense, I don't even know what to make of it. It's been terrible, and there's something that needs to be fixed there. But on the back end, when it comes to like the passing defense, look, you got Trey Avery and Eric Garror, an undrafted rookie free agent this year, and an undrafted rookie free agent from the year prior, as your 2 of 3 starting cornerbacks, because Sean Murphy-Bunting is out with a thump with a P is what was on the injury report all week. They never corrected it last week. It just said thump. So injured thumb for Sean Murphy-Bunting, and then Roger McCreary with that hamstring still not able to be back in the lineup. That makes a huge difference against, I talked about on the preview show that this receiving core with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson is a good group of guys. Now, George Pickens finished with like -1 yards receiving, and that was mostly due to Christian Fulton, who had an excellent game.
Excellent game.
Quick shout out to Christian Fulton. Targeted 7 times,
3 in a row,
defending four different players, allowed 4 catches for 11 yards. George Pickens, 2 catches for -1 yard on 3 targets. So Fulton playing very well right now. Maybe that, second, contract year thing is finally kicking in for him, and he's trying to get a second contract with somebody. I don't think it'll be here, but with somebody. But the other 2 guys, Trey Avery and Eric Garror, replacement level players, maybe below replacement level. I mean, as a rookie, undrafted free agent for Garror, that is a really tough spot to be put into. He's a good punt returner, but he's not a good cornerback, at least not right now. Maybe he can get there one day. And then Trey Avery, always competitive. He's always there around the ball, but man, the guys just go up and make catches over him like he's not there, and it just seems to keep happening to him. So tough stuff for him. Until the secondary gets healthy, like, you can't expect much more. Kenny Pickett barely attempted to pass beyond 5 yards down the field last night, and the Steelers are able to score 20 points. Mike tweeted something about that. Mike Herndon, check out his Twitter if you probably follow him if you listen to this podcast, but he's tweeting about it too. So just like the defense played well enough at times, but then they just I don't even know if they did, honestly, because like the 1 3 and out they forced was because Kenny Pickett airmailed George Pickens, whoever he airmailed it to somebody, and then another one that they got out of a punt on, or they forced a punt on, was the deep one to Pickens, where Azeez Al-Shire is in coverage. Great coverage, great play, but kind of lucky. He just like throws his left arm up at the last second and knocks the ball away when Pickens was going to score a touchdown if that ball was 2 yards out further down the field on the throw. So I don't know. The defense played really well against Atlanta, and then they come back 1 week later, 9 total pressures against Pickett, 0 sacks against Broderick Jones in his first start. I thought Harold Landry, who's been playing, he's been coming along in recent weeks, finally starting to look more like himself. Thought he was going to eat Jones alive because he's a big guy, but he doesn't have necessarily the quickness. I thought Harold Landry dipping around the edge was going to be a factor. I thought Jeffrey Simmons, coming off the game he had in Atlanta, was going to be better than he was, and he made a couple plays in the run game, and T.R. Tart made a couple plays in the run game, but overall, like, they allowed too many big runs, and they didn't get hardly any pressure on Pickett throughout the whole game.
Yeah, I'll make this quick because I've got thoughts, but I think I can sort of summarize them, fairly easily. I agree. I don't know what you expect from the secondary right now. Like, I thought Christian Fulton played really well. Like you said, 3 very good games in a row I wanted to highlight for him. It's not just this one. He was very good against Atlanta. He was pretty good against Baltimore a couple weeks ago as well. But when I look around, Trey Avery is not a starting caliber corner, and Eric Garror is certainly not a starting caliber nickel. And then you get some of the other issues too. Like Terrell Edmonds is not a good player in coverage by any stretch of the imagination. I think we saw that. They really missed Sean Murphy-Bunting. They really missed Roger McCreary. And, we talk. I don't think Kevin Byard, was having a great year, like we said, but I'd be crazy to say they don't miss him. He's better than Terrell Edmonds is, right? Like, so, I'm not surprised the secondary had the day that it was, or the day that it had, excuse me. And I'm not super disappointed in them because it's sort of what I expected. Who I am very disappointed in is the defensive line. And you talked about the run stopping. I'm not going to get too much into it because I thought it was bad. I'm not going to get into it because I don't have an answer. It's just guys losing, right? Like, I don't necessarily know why it's happening per se. Guys got to win. They got to execute. What I'm more disappointed in, and I have got more answers for, is the pass rush. I think that's what confuses me because secondary being the way it is, they also, hung them out to dry. I think the pass rush did, and they didn't do him any favors, right? Like, secondary could have had a better game potentially if the pass rush was getting home. It was not getting home, and that's an injured quarterback there who's got bruised ribs or whatever he has that you should have been excited to tee off on. And one thing I haven't seen mentioned enough, you said 9 pressures. I mean, this is not a good offensive line. Don't confuse. It is not good.
Right.
It's better than the Titans, but it's not good. It's like 20th or worse than the NFL, maybe 25 or worse. They've been trying to get that thing right for years, and they haven't. They had a rookie right tackle starting his first career game, as you said. They should have been able to tee off on him, sort of how they teed off on our tackles. Right, but they didn't tee off on him. They've got who's the left tackle there? Is it Dan Moore Jr.? Like, it's not a good starting left tackle. They've invested a ton of money into the interior. James Daniels hasn't met the expectations of the contract. Isaac Sumalo, the guard they brought over from Philly, is a pretty good player, but overall, this is not a good offensive line. It is still in shambles. They have not been able to get it right for years. It's extremely disappointing. They only had 9 pressures on this O-line, who's protecting an injured quarterback. I want to emphasize.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's disappointing, but at the end of the day, maybe it's better. Maybe it's better this way. Let Levis play with a bad defense so he can actually throw it, like have to be forced to air it out. And we'll get to see him.
He's gonna have to, I think, down the stretch here.
Yeah. Let's see what Levis can do when he has to throw the ball a lot and make more. We talked about this on the recap and on the preview a little bit, that Levis hadn't been put in any situations where he had to make a play that trailing in the game. Let's go see if you can score. And this is where I want to get into the play calling here, because we can talk about the sequence right before halftime in a second, but 4 minutes left in the game. You're down by 4. You get an amazing punt return or kickoff return because of a penalty that backs up the kickoff. Tajay Spears does a great job getting the ball almost to the 50-yard line.
You got to go 50 yards
minutes
to win this game. I'm sorry. 50 yards with a quarterback that's playing well and that you're excited about.
Exactly. A guy who's been slinging darts all around the field, navigating pressure, handling the line of scrimmage. And you come out and you start with an end around to a guy who hasn't shown that he can make a play this year. He did have a 75-yard catch at one point, but a guy who hasn't really been able to make a play very much this year. Yeah. He did actually make a play on the end around. He beat a guy to the edge and he picked up like 5 or 6 yards. It was a positive play. It's fine. Whatever. It's not the play I would have called in that situation.
I hate the call.
Yeah, absolutely hate the call. You either put the ball in the King's hands there and let him do something on 1st and 10 when the defense is expecting that you're going to be moving quickly and passing the ball and maybe you get some room for Henry, or you put the ball in your rookie quarterback's hands and you say, look, we need you to make a play, Will. This is why we drafted you. Go out there and make a play. Anyway, they end up running it 3 times in a row. And the 3rd down run, 3rd and 4, I believe it was.
Yep.
They hand the ball off to Tajay Spears, not even to Derrick Henry. Tajay Spears has been great. Tajay Spears has been good, so I'm not trying to say you shouldn't give him the ball because he needs a chance to make plays too. But
on a draw,
Vrabel talked about this in the Thursday press conference. He said, "Look, we knew we're in 4-down territory, so we thought maybe we catch him off guard with a 3rd and 4 run play. They're expecting pass. He maybe gets us closer to a more manageable 4th down conversion attempt, or he just picks it up and we keep going with the drive." I get that from a philosophical standpoint. It's one of the keys.
I've seen other teams call the same.
100%. It's one of the tenets of the air raid offensive philosophy, which the Titans don't run by any stretch. But one of the tenets of that is that you play against, you catch the defense out of what they're expecting. If their defense is playing like it's 3rd and 4 to go and that's it, and the offense is playing like you got 2 downs to get that 4 yards, then your playbook is totally opened up and you can attack the defense in ways they're not expecting. Philosophically, it totally works. What doesn't work is when you don't convert it and your rookie quarterback, who has started 1 game, and this is his 2nd start ever, he needs a chance to make a mistake that doesn't basically lose you the game in that moment. And the fact that this is what I mentioned earlier, the fact that they don't let him throw the ball until 4th and 4, they don't put the ball in his hands until it's 4th down, do or die moment, and he did make a mistake there. I mean, he gave his guy a chance down the field, Traylon Burks down the sideline. That was the play that Traylon got hurt on.
I thought he pushed it a little outside, though, to be honest.
He pushed it a little outside. He threw it a little too far to the sideline. Same kind of thing he did when he was looking for Traylon down the field in the Falcons game. Just a little bit too far to the sideline. He did something not like that. When he hit Hopkins for his first touchdown last week, he did the opposite. He put the ball in play and let his receiver come back in the field to make a play on it. In this one, he didn't do that. And he missed a wide open Kyle Phillips, who now he was under pressure. He kind of had to get rid of the ball, and Phillips was coming open a little late. But Phillips was coming open on the little slant crosser over the middle of the field, a few yards beyond the sticks. That would have kept the drive alive and would have kept things going. Would have been a huge play for the Titans. But the fact that was it, if that was the 3rd down play, and then you have 4th and 4, and you can get, Will Levis can reset and be like, dang, I as I was releasing the ball, I noticed Phillips was coming open. I could have been a slightly more patient and hit him and gotten that 1st down and not been so aggressive in that moment. That, to me, is coaching failure. I get the philosophy of wanting to, to try to catch the defense off guard, but you got to give Levis a chance. I was so excited just as a Titans fan in that moment. All right, Will Levis, 4 minutes to go. He's got to go about 50 yards and score a touchdown. Yep. Let's see what he's got. And then it's end around, handoff. And it's what the hell? What is that? What are we doing here? And then the next time he touches the ball, he's got 1:20 to go 90 yards or something like that.
Whatever it was.
To score a touchdown. At that point,
only left.
One timeout. At that point, the game is essentially over because,
Agreed. And he got him closer than I thought they'd get.
He did. And what you're really relying on at that point is that the defense busts a coverage and makes a mistake, because there's no way that you just, if they play sound, there's no way you drive down the field and score a touchdown in that instance, unless somebody makes an unhuman, heroic play where they go up and snatch the ball away from a defender or something crazy. Like you would need someone to make an incredible play to come out on top in that situation. So your best chance was that 4-minute drive from only 50 yards out, by the way. You're not backed up at your own 20.
No.
The fact that they didn't even let Levis have that chance was just really disappointing.
And you know that I'm always hesitant to blame play calling, right? Like I tend to think execution over play calling. And I want to be careful not to contradict myself here, because it's always important, I think, to analyze process over results, right? So for example, although the Treylon Burks end around wasn't a disaster, but I hate the process, right? I hate the process, but by all means, again, a guy that really has made one play all year, earlier had an opportunity to break a tackle, make a guy miss in space when Levis hit the hot, as we talked, didn't do that. He hasn't done it all year. No way in hell I'm giving him that end around. Okay, fine, but he gets you in 2nd and 5, sure, whatever it was, 2nd and 6. I understand running another running play there at that point, right? So let's see if we can pick up this first down or get ourselves into 3rd and manageable. You do get yourself into 3rd and manageable. I think 3rd and 4 it qualifies as 3rd and manageable. I hate the draw call. I agree. I get what you're saying from a philosophical standpoint. I get that, but I still hate the process there, because for me, when we're in 4-down territory and it's 3rd and 4, I am never going to give my quarterback only one chance to make a play. And honestly, I don't even care who that quarterback is. Even if he's a really good one, I'm always going to give him 2 chances, because I hate the thought where if he doesn't get it on the one attempt, the game is over. No, it's 3rd and 4. It's a manageable situation. I am giving him 2 opportunities to convert that and move the chains. And hopefully I only need 1 opportunity, because I get it on 3rd down. But you know what? I'm coaching to protect myself, right? If I don't get it there on 3rd down, 3rd and 4, I'm giving him another chance to go get it. And you know what? If he can't get it, I go home and I sleep peacefully at night, because I tell myself I gave my quarterback 2 chances to get it. He didn't get it. Oh, well, right? We tried. It is what it is. But for me, I'll never understand the thought process for giving him 1 chance to pick it up. And I know you're hoping you catch him off and you catch him off guard, you get the first down. I don't like it. No matter what, I don't like it. I'm throwing the ball both times in that situation.
I agree. If it's 3rd and 1 and then it leads to 4th and 1,
sure,
totally different ballgame.
Run
totally
the ball.
Different scenario.
3rd and 1, sure.
But 3rd and 4 there, I mean, the defense knows it's 4-down territory. I think that's the big disconnect here. Is Mike Vrabel's like, well, we thought we could catch him off guard. Them thinking that we're going to punt on 4th.
Look shocked.
You're not punting on 4th.
They didn't look shocked.
You're down by 4 points with under 4 minutes to go from the 50. You're not punting in that situation, unless you are Mike Vrabel against the Ravens a few years ago. No, but the point is, like, that was a bad. I want to talk. Let's move on. We covered that.
Yeah.
Good job, us. I want to talk about right before halftime. This was Will Levis's best drive of the game. Was the 2-minute drill before halftime. Starts off with a short pass to Spears. Then he hits Hopkins over the middle for 9 yards. Then he hits it deep to Kyle Phillips for 24 yards. Next play hits it deep to Kyle Phillips for 21 yards. Then he's looking deep for Hopkins. It's not there. And then the next play should have been a touchdown. Will Levis throwing to Tajay Spears out of the backfield. He runs out of the pocket. He floats one to Spears. Spears inexplicably turns his back to the down. Turns back to the, like, he's in a back pedal now. And instead of, like, turning all the way around and running through the ball, he continues to backpedal and he puts his hands up and stumbles backwards and falls down. The ball bounces incomplete. Now, did Will Levis throw a slightly inaccurate pass here? Was this ball too far to the inside when it should have been to his outside shoulder? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But it was a very catchable ball. Yeah. Tajay Spears can spin all the way around. And sure, maybe it's not the easiest catch in the world, but this is an NFL athlete who's touted as a good pass-catching running back we're talking about here. If he runs through the ball, that's a touchdown. Titans go up by 7 at halftime instead of by 3. Will Levis, the ball was slightly too far inside. There's a lot of debate on Twitter right now over whose fault this play was. I'm putting 95% of this on Tajay Spears and 5% on Will Levis. Like, make an adjustment and make a play for your quarterback. It doesn't have to be perfect every time.
You're open and it's a catchable ball, and you stumbled, right? Like, I think the blame feels pretty clear to me, right? Who the blame should be on. So.
Exactly. Like, you don't ever backpedal down the field unless the ball is severely underthrown. And maybe Spears just horribly misjudged it, and that's what happened. But the point is, Will Levis had what should have been a touchdown pass on that play. Next play, 3rd and 9. from the 19-yard line with 25 seconds left and a timeout. You still have a timeout. The Titans call a give-up handoff play to set up a field goal before halftime. Your quarterback just had the best drive he's had all night. He just threw what should have been a touchdown pass the play before. You still have a timeout. Even if you're worried that your offensive line can't protect and he's going to give up a sack, you're at the 20, you're at the 19-yard line. He takes a 10-yard sack, you're still a very makeable field goal range. You complete a pass inbounds short of the sticks. You still have the timeout and get that field goal. You complete a pass beyond 10 yards. You can call timeout. You get one shot to the end zone before you have to kick that field goal. There is no reason to not give him the chance. Be aggressive. Don't play not to lose. Play to win. You play to win the game. Play to win. I don't understand this. And Mike Vrabel was asked specifically about this. Do you know what explanation he gave? Oh, well, we were in a similar situation in the Browns game, and I don't even remember what happened in this situation in the Browns game. Was this the strip sack that led to... Was this just a instant sack that ended the half? I think the time
expired on them, didn't it? Like they took a sack and they didn't have a timeout and they couldn't get the field goal.
Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense because in this situation, you have a timeout.
Yep.
It's a different situation. Are you that worried that Will Levis is going to get strip sacked? That you're going to lose possession completely? Tell your quarterback before the play, protect the ball on this play. We're going to give you one shot. Don't turn it over no matter what you do. Don't turn it over.
I don't think they're concerned about a strip sack. And look, I don't have a ton to
Are they concerned about...
I fully agree with you.
Are they concerned about an interception? Are they concerned he's going to throw an interception there and you're not going to get any points?
I'm thinking, you know what? It's almost similar to the play at the end of the game where the Steelers are probably playing to protect the end zone. So you're worried about taking an end zone shot because the safety gets to drive forward on whatever you're throwing in that. Like that's the one thing that comes. Or the opposite, you get the completion, you call timeout. Now you don't have any timeouts. You take a sack on the next play, whatever, and you get like that's probably what they're worried about. But I agree, be aggressive. And you know what? They needed those points, right? You needed to take that shot.
Yeah.
You ended up needing.
You lose by 4.
Other stuff happened in the second half that changed that situation, right? I understand, but I think they should have been aggressive. I mean, I was watching as soon as I saw the 3rd and 9 handoff. I went, "Oh wow!" I mean, talk about cowardly.
Yeah, cowardly, exactly. Playing not to lose. And Mike Vrabel said after the game, like those points were I felt those points were too important. We had to get them. You could have gotten them, man. You go for it. You
could have gotten 7.
Pass play there.
Those points would have been.
Thank you. I mean, give me a break with this. And now, this is not an anti-Mike Vrabel podcast. You and I both believe Mike Vrabel's a very good coach. There's just some things he's got to...
But he's not perfect. No one is. I mean...
one of my favorite tweets I saw on Twitter last night from our buddy Rob on Broadway, Robert Greenlaw. Mike Vrabel always talks about just don't do dumb stuff that hurts the team. He said this qualifies as dumb stuff that hurts the team. And I agree. Like, this is just being way too conservative, and I get it. On the road, rookie quarterback, second career start, hostile environment, ferocious pass rush, banged up offensive line. Yeah, I do get all of that, but I still think you give up, like I said, you give up a sack there, you throw a pass short of the sticks. Look, the difference between this and the end of the game that you just said, you're worried about that pass to the end zone being driven on and intercepted or whatever, then don't throw it to the end zone. Yeah. Throw it to the 10-yard line, pick up the first down, call timeout. You still have, there was 19 seconds left before, there was 25 seconds left before the snap.
Now it's different, right?
25 seconds.
You get that down to the 10-yard line, you're closer. They don't really get that same opportunity to drive forward per se, right? That's more of a coverage situation now.
And if that play takes 8 seconds, you still have 17 seconds. You have a shot to the end zone. Even if you get sacked, you potentially could spike the ball and kick the field goal there. I mean, 17 seconds is about the cutoff point. So, like, there is a chance that even then they would have been okay and still been able to kick the field goal. You can get the field goal in that situation whenever you want it. Why take it on 3rd down, basically? And Mike Vrabel even said, if he busts that run there and scores through, then maybe we have a chance to keep going. Yeah, what if Will Levis completes a pass there? He's been throwing darts all game.
Then it's the same thing at the end of the game, too, right? What if we break off a run on the draw? Well, maybe put the ball in the quarterback's hands, and it might have been a different story. And like I said, I'm not one to typically get on play calling, but that one absolutely deserved it. That those two sequences were very, very poor from a decision-making standpoint, and they got what they deserved, in all honesty, right? Like, that's just the way it goes. And I said, like, when I said coaches do this shit all the time around the league, and this is, we're very pro Mike Vrabel. I want to give you one example, and this sounds like I'm going off on a tangent. I'm not going to keep it long. If this was a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. We probably sit here complaining on that 1st and 23 that were, praising Will Levis for making that throw probably shouldn't have Cole Holcomb on DeAndre Hopkins, right? Like that's what we'd be talking about if this was a Steelers podcast.
Poor Cole Holcomb. It looked like his leg broke in half.
Oh, he broke his leg just trying to cover DeAndre Hopkins down the field, right? Like he just couldn't keep up with him at all, right? Like it's just. But I mean, you see what I mean.
Also on that play,
this is a Steelers podcast. We're complaining about that.
Also on that play, they dropped T.J. Watt into coverage. So
what I mean,
we talk about making Will Levis.
Remember when Harold Landry was covering in the Ravens game a couple weeks? Like every coach does it. All 32 of them do it.
Right.
So you're always going to have something to complain about. But the play
Will
calling.
Levis, they couldn't block T.J. Watt, and now you get him backed up 1st and 23, and you have a chance possibly to get a safety because he's thrown out of his own end zone. And instead of rushing your best pass rusher who they can't block, he drops into coverage. And honestly, if Watt was rushing on that play, we might be talking about a totally different game here. But
you see my
credit
point.
the Titans for taking advantage.
You can complain about all 32. It's never perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But certainly the play calling, the decision making on those two crucial sequences in a 4-point loss, it really did cost them an opportunity to win the game.
Absolutely did. All right, Justin, we've been going for almost an hour. Anything else?
That is all. We'll be back early next week to preview the Tampa Bay Bucks game and hopefully fawn over Will Levis some more.
Yeah, exactly. And I will be doing my darndest to get a film breakdown up. I'm going to put both games together now since I didn't have a chance to do the Falcons game. Why not just his best plays from the Falcons and the Steelers, put them in one video, put it out. That'll be coming to you hopefully sometime this weekend. We'll see. All right. That will do it for us here at Music City Audible. Thanks for listening to the end. We appreciate everyone. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel at Music City Audible Podcast on YouTube. Follow us there. Follow Justin on Twitter at JustinM_NFL. Follow me at Titans Film Room. Until next time, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.